What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Traders Mindchat show. Today, we will be talking about how to find the best ideas that are AI related for 2025. Now, you're if you've been trading AI stocks, let me know which ones you've been interested in. Go ahead, type into the chat now. Drop comments down below. Let me know what are your favorite AI stocks. The reason why I I even considered this as a topic. Well, I was trying to think through, well, what would be a great topic for today's show? And what better place to go and find what's trending than over on X? So I asked Grok, what were the three biggest questions that people are asking about trading stocks right now? And the first thing to pop up had to do with identifying and investing in AI-centric stocks. So if you fall into that category, go ahead, type into the chat. I'm actually curious. If you are interested in AI-centric stocks, press yes. If not, type a no. I just want to get a gauge of the people that are here right now, if this is something that that interests you or not. But other things that it came up with. What impact will rising interest rates have? That doesn't really. I'm not too interested in that myself. Well, which sectors of stocks are resilient and beneficial or inflationary times? I think that AI was the most interesting one. So I followed up with a question. Let's dive deeper into number one. What are the 10 stocks that are trading above $20 per share that have had the greatest year-to-date performance that are considered AI-centric? Now, here's why I wanted to ask it this question in this way. I wanted to see if it would do a good job of actually pulling these popular names that you might be interested in trading. So here's what it had to say first. Nvidia, all right, that's a pretty good one. I've traded that plenty of times myself in 24 and will, in all likelihood, probably be trading it again in 2025. Microsoft, a little bit slower of a mover, but okay. AMD, not the greatest one, at least not lately. Amazon, all right. Google, Meta, Tesla. That's no real surprise there. Although I personally, I wasn't thinking of Tesla as an AI stock, though I can see they're driving their cars, driverless cars. That's, of course, that's AI. Adobe, okay. Taiwan Semiconductor, and then this one here, probably the best performer of the group is PLTR. And so I started to dig a little bit deeper into these and start to figure out, well, tell me a little bit about each company, etc. But I wanted to deep dive this on my own because, well, it's one thing to start to do some of our own light research and go to a Grok or a ChatGPT and start to ask us these questions. But if we take what this AI is saying as gospel and go off it and trade based off of it, we're missing something, right? It's one thing if you are already very knowledgeable in a topic. It's another thing if you're entering that topic for the first time. You don't really know if you're getting good information or not. So I took these stocks that Grok had to talk about here, and I took each one of them and I put them into DeepVue. Now, DeepVue is a tool that I like to use. It's a screening tool. There's plenty of screening tools out there that you could use. This happens to be my favorite one right now. We'll go through some of the things in here for why, but one of the things that it is very helpful with is being able to pull up a ticker, like, I don't know, let's just say PLTR, and come over to watch list and do that here instead, PLTR. And I'm able to see all the other stocks that are in its same sub-industry group. So just quickly flipping through some of the names here, and let's just look at the weekly charts to see what kind of moves these ones have had. So here's PLTR, here's Asana, RBRK, AI, right? And just have a sense of, well, what's in the same industry group. When I after finding this part, I went back to Grok and I said, okay, Grok, here are these lists of stocks that are also in the same industry group. Are these ones all AI related? Because this is saying that they're in the system software group, but are they AI related or not? So I did all that, and I uh, did that for each one of the stocks that Grok had pulled up, and I eventually came up with this watch list here of 28 directly AI related names in various industry groups. And so um, DeepVue is very good at keeping lists like this, but one of the cool things about it is that I'm able to build a little heat map of all the stocks in that watch list, and with it, I'm able to see, oh wow, look at um, so it had mentioned PLTR, right? 341% return. That's very, very good. That's I actually think that that's the highest return one that Grok had mentioned, but it didn't mention app, which is up almost 1,000% on the year. It didn't mention SOUN, which is up almost 600% on the year. Um, it it mentioned Nvidia, right? But it missed out on A-Lab and Marvel. Um, it did mention AMD. It mentioned Adobe, right? So if you're making your shopping list off of what something like Grok has to say, you're really missing the boat. It might be, if you're just starting out, that might be a good way to do a little bit of light research, but you really want to have a tool that helps you dig a little bit deeper. And even more importantly than that, have a methodology that tells you, well, which one of these should I be taking a closer look at? And when is the right time to buy these? Because you could be buying something like app. This one is up the most on the year right now, right? Uh, you could be buying it at any point in time, and you might end up being a loser on a trade that is up 1,000% on the year. That might sound crazy, but when let's say that you bought app right here, and let's zoom in on that a little bit. Let's come back over to watch list, and we'll pick on app for a little bit. Oops, APP. And let's just say that, I don't know, let's say that you bought it right here. You bought it there. You're starting to make some progress on it. You're up 4%. And then all of a sudden, you're down 4% and then you sell. Then this thing starts to take off and you're like, oh man, I should have gotten back in it. Let's say that you do get back in it. Let's say that you're waiting for consolidation. You end up buying over here and it starts to push up, and then it has a day like this and you're like, oh, I don't want to sit with a loser overnight, and then you sell. And then because you don't have a real way to enter or to manage a trade, that's something that can screw you up. That ends up screwing up a lot of people because they might think that they see this AI name and tell themselves that, oh, I'm just going to hold this and sit through it. Well, this happens to be a name that didn't um, fall all that much while really since the move started way back here in September. Since September, the stock is up, let's see, it's up about 300, almost 350%, right? It's closing in on that. So let's say that you were in a stock that didn't have quite as smooth a move. Let's say that you were in Nvidia. Um, yeah, Caleb says that I am down huge on Nvidia this year. It doesn't sound that crazy at all. Yeah, that's what happened to me a long time ago. Well, when I started out with this stuff, because you could be in a stock that has such a nice move, right? And well, what did Nvidia do this year? Come back over to this. On the year, Nvidia is up almost 200% on the year. So if you're trading Nvidia, but let's say that you get in at the wrong time on Nvidia. Let's say that instead of trading it, I don't know what when it was back here, right? Or even back here, back in January when it started this move. I believe we traded it back here. I definitely traded it in this. So let's say that let's actually start off from this move right here and zoom in a little bit on it so you can see the bars better. Right. All right. So let's say that uh, we got in together on this. You rode this thing up and you were able to get a 50% move. Well, what happens if you're like, oh man, I missed that, but let me try to buy in here? Well, then you probably got shaken out. I don't know about you, but I'm not that great at sitting through pullbacks like this. So I would have gotten shaken out if I just wanted to round trip this whole thing if I didn't have a plan. Prices come back, it's rebounded. But yeah, if you don't have a proper setup, if you don't know when to get in or when to get out or how to manage any of this stuff, that's how you end up messing a lot of this stuff up. So it is good to have a list of all the different AI stocks. And again, here's the list that I came up with for us here. So if you want to screenshot this list here, go right ahead. If maybe you're somebody that's listening to or watching this later on, you could come back to this and pause the video. There's BTDR, APP, SOUN. Right, there's a lot of names on here. The way that I like to trade these names or any names is to first do kind of what we did here, which is narrow the list. And I'm not looking at every single AI name that's out there. These are all names that are directly related to AI. When I was doing some of this lighter research in Grok, there's a few names on here. Let me scroll down to some of these down here at the bottom. Yeah, like this here, right? It says MSTR, MicroStrategy, AI-centric. It's partially centric. All right, great. So this one didn't make my list. But what did were the ones that were directly AI-centric. So Marathon Digital Holdings, that one didn't make it either. But ones like, let's see here. Yeah, so ALAB. Yes, this is directly AI centric, so that's one that would make the list. So by narrowing down the list, that's how we could start to figure out, all right, which ones are we going to trade, then we could start to figure out when are we going to trade them. The way that I like to figure out, well, when am I going to trade? I have a list of setups that I'll trade. And a setup that it could be anything, right? So it's a word that might sound a little bit ambiguous, but basically a setup is just anything that's going to prompt you to take an action. So for me, I've got my list of setups right here. And let's zoom in on this a bit. So I have my list of setups, and this is what's going to prompt me to take an action when I'm looking at the different stocks. If I were just looking at every single stock that's out there, then I would be, running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But because I've already narrowed down the field, right? So in this instance, I'm really only interested in just a handful of names with this list that we made together in DeepVue. There's only 28 names on this list. Great. So how do I know when I'm going to trade those particular names? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this and see, well, which one of those 28 names fits one of these patterns here as they're written out and defined, and which ones look like one of these samples. And this is an exercise that you could do yourself, right? Like you don't need anybody else to do this for you. Just go into your charting platform, whatever it is. If you're using DeepVue or TradingView, if you're using something else, all that's fine. Just go in there, annotate your charts, and that way you start to build a mental model of what it is that you're looking for. And then when it shows up again, you're able to recognize it. That's exactly what I've been doing. And that's why right now I'm having a sensational year. So are there any of these that are setting up right now? Let's go through them. Many of these are extended right now. Even Astra Labs, the last time that it was potentially setting up would have been right here, back on November the 19th. I actually missed this one, but I think that this would have been buyable as a pullback. It would have been somewhat aggressive since it's sitting right at the 10-day exponential moving average. It didn't quite pull back far enough for what I like to see, but that would have been one potential entry. And at this point, it's up almost 30% from there. But a lot of these are extended right now. Ambarella might be ready soon. It's worth keeping an eye on. Nvidia seems like it's consolidating. It might need a little bit more time before it's ready. ARM, when a stock becomes a laggard like this, sometimes it could have a little bit of a run when towards the end of a cycle, but for the most part, it tends not to be a leader. Yeah, right now it's still in what's considered a Weinstein stage 3, which means that it's just in this weird basing period where it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up. It's not really making a whole lot of progress. AMD, very similar. Wouldn't touch it, at least not right now. Tesla's been fantastic. I'm actually in Tesla right now. Yeah, Tesla just broke out right up here. So I was in Tesla from back here, traded it, exited a portion of it right over here, re-entered when it completed the breakout from this flag. Or you might even consider this to be a VCP, volatility contraction pattern. And it had a pretty strong breakout the last couple of days here. See a question here from From Emma. Emma wants to see QBTS. All right, yeah, let's take a look at QBTS. All right, yeah, this one, in my opinion, this one's extended. I don't see a trade in this one here. The last, just based on the price action, when was the last time that this one would have been tradable? Not for a while, really. And this is also it's very small. I mean, it's trading under $5 a share typically. Most of the stocks that I trade over $20 a share. It's not that I wouldn't that there's something inherently wrong with it, but when stocks start to trade in the 10s and 20s, that's when you typically start to see more of the institutional players, your major hedge funds and mutual funds, pension funds start to create positions, and it's really their buying that starts to drive something up. Something like this, it might have big moves, but there tends to be a lot of slippage in it too. So, well, what's slippage? Well, if we come down to an intraday chart, and let's go down to even just a 5-minute chart. The action starts to get a little bit wild and whippy. Here's a 1-minute time frame. And you might start to see the bids in the ask start to get a little bit wide. You might see sudden moves down. And if well, when you're trading with stocks, and this isn't a penny stock in that it's under just a few cents, but it's still in that same category where pennies actually count. Um, yeah, my as a personal preference, I tend to stay away from these most of the time. There's so many stocks out there. Better to trade ones that are a bit more liquid. Let's see. Well, what other thoughts or comments or questions you guys have? Send them in. But let's keep on going through what we've got here with some of these other names. Let's see. We've got Zillow. Yeah, that I wouldn't consider that much of anything yet. Car Gurus. This was on the radar last week when it was setting up down here. It's had a halfway decent move so far, about 7% since it had its pullback. And this is generally what I like to see in a pullback. When price runs up on heavy duty volume like this, and then pulls back on lighter volume relative to the run up. And take a look at the price action itself. The price action is relatively controlled, nice and tight. That's what I like to see in a pullback. Snap looks like it needs more time. So does this one here, YY. Yelp could be interesting soon. Meta broke out this week. That actually looks pretty good here. Not where I would start a position, but if I was in it, I think that you could have gotten in right as it crossed into new highs. Right. Well, when price is trading like this, where price keeps on hitting its head on a ceiling like this, eventually, when it breaks through, that's a valid breakout, and that's an ideal time to be buying in if this is a name that you're interested in. For me, this is a little bit of a slower mover. I would much rather be buying something like APP, which we looked at earlier, because this one is now up almost 20% in the last week. Yeah, Google. very slow mover. ZI, also wouldn't touch that one for a while. Palantir, this has been a standout leader. This is very extended right now. If you're in it, I would still be looking to hold it. If it seems like it could be headed towards 100. If it does get towards 100, I would be looking to take some profits. It's a logical spot to take some profits. Here's one, AI, appropriate ticker symbol, right? So this, well, oh man, this actually looks pretty good. So let's see here. I like to have my charts set up like this, where I have a monthly chart up here, a weekly chart, a daily chart, and then an intraday chart. It seeing seeing the price action like this, that it helps to keep all the different time frames in my view all at once. And when we start to get pullbacks or we start to get consolidations, it makes it very easy to see, well, where's the other confluence levels? Are we getting to a major level? Is this a minor level? What should I be doing? It helps me figure out the answers to those questions. So when I see AI pulling back like this and consolidating below, oh, what is that? About $40 a share. Well, why is $40 a share significant? Well, I could look up here at the weekly and see that it's fairly close, not exactly, but fairly close to a prior resistance level back here from March. And it's gotten within that zone, right? Somewhat of a zone back here from June of 23. Yeah, June through July of 23. It's an interesting level for it to be. So if price was going to pause or consolidate, this is a spot that seems to make sense. Uh, when I ask myself the question, could it be getting ready to make, quote unquote, make the turn? I want to see heavy duty volume as it's starting to approach these levels. It does have that. It has it right down here. If we take a look at uh, this move here on November the 19th, when price jumped almost 25%, it did that on super duper heavy volume. In fact, if we come back to the daily chart, that might be the heaviest volume that it's had. Well, it was the heaviest volume that it's had since May. So about 6 months. So somebody is in there and buying, and as price is breaking out today, volume is heavy. So this, if you're really interested in one of these names like that, that's actually a buyable move. And if I were looking to get into this, I would probably have my stop set somewhere below, probably like $36.90, something like that. Just below the low from a few days ago. When setting stops, I also like to go down into the intraday charts and see, well, where's price been pulling back to? Well, price has been pulling back to this level and this level, and it was consolidating just below this. So I've got all these points that are all lining up to roughly the same spot down here in the 30-minute chart as it was on the daily chart. So that's giving me that multiple time frame confluence, everything lining up. So that's something that tells me, okay, that's probably a halfway decent spot for me to place my stop if this is one where I'm looking to enter the trade. And well, when it comes to figuring out, well, what trades am I going to take? Where am I going to place my stop loss? All that kind of stuff. I'm always assessing reward to risk. So the reward side of the equation, I want it to be significantly higher than what my risk side of the equation is. At the absolute very least, I'm looking to make twice my risk on any single trade that I take. My targets, my initial target, right? So if I'm looking to take AI, I'm probably aiming a lot higher than just, well, let's expand this here, right? So what is this? Risking about 7%. My target is probably higher than 14%. Right, 14% would be 45. It would probably be looking like, oh, well, where does 50 land us? Well, 25% gain. That's actually within the ballpark of what the standard gain is on a nice winning trade. So this is actually a pretty good one. So if I looking at my portfolio right now, here's a few of the names that I'm in right now. So actually fairly close to being maxed out. So I'm in this one here, Bros. I'm in APP. We talked about that one earlier. Coin. Coin was started right back here. And so I'm in several names and am fairly heavy in these names. Not where I'm risking a ton of capital, right? Most of the time I'm risking just 1%, often less than 1% of capital per trade. But because I'm able to get in with relatively tight entry and stop loss, I'm able to have significant size per position. So let me see, where did my playbook go? I'll just open it up again and show you, because I like to show rather than just talk. All right, so let's get this out of here and bring this back. Okay. Yeah, so right now with Bros, I've got 11% of my capital in it. App, I've got 8.5%. Spotify, 15%. DraftKings actually sold it earlier today, so that one's gone. Coco, 10%. Coin, 13%. And Tesla, 10%. So 77% invested overall. Back out DraftKings, and I actually do have a bit of capital that I could play with. So AI might not be a bad one, right? But with all these trades, right? Like I wouldn't just go in and be like, oh well, this one looks good, let's buy it. That's more gambling than it is trading. Whenever I'm trying to figure out, well, which one should I buy, I like to do a bunch of research on it. We've been talking now for about half an hour, but I want to go in, do a little bit more research on AI, see if it fits all my other criteria that I'm interested in, and then if it does, then perhaps I would be looking to buy it, but not before. As far as the chart goes, the chart does look pretty. So anyhow, that is about it. Let me know what questions you guys have. Not sure if this is a question or a comment, but Caleb says that he's in a lab from much earlier, from about $90 a share. Yeah, that it's doing fantastic. So you got in on that pullback that we talked about earlier. Right now, it looks perfect. Right now, it looks perfect. I wouldn't be doing anything other than sitting and enjoying the ride. Any other thoughts or comments or questions about AI and AI stocks? Uh, yeah, well, when it comes to monitoring this stuff, that it's this layout that DeepVue gives is pretty cool, where you could have a heat map and you could see, well, there's certain stocks in the AI sector that are part of software, that are part of semiconductors, that are part of interactive media, that are part of retail, that are part of auto, right? It's a pretty cool feature. Caleb says that was the bull wedge action setup that I had a hard time articulating to you. Well, I still think that coming up with uh like trying to write it out is important. And coming up with something where you could have a fairly wide description, and the description that you come up with yourself uh, can evolve over time. All leads have evolved over time. So it could be fairly wide, right? Like my pullback, I described it earlier as a pullback, right? But 7 days to 5 weeks, that's fairly wide, but it's still limited because it's not 6 days or 5 days or 4 days, and it's not 6 weeks or 9 weeks or 100 weeks. It's limited. So there has to be some sort of parameters around it, because if there aren't, then you could be looking at anything. And when you do challenge yourself to write out some sort of a description, it helps you to fine tune it and to become a little bit more acutely aware of when these things do appear. Uh, in the best of instances, you probably won't need it. But when things are iffy, or when we're emotional, or when we're having an off day, that's when having done those kinds of exercises uh, really help us. Because even if we're not looking at that page in the moment, when we're looking at the chart, it'll help, because we've done that extra work to put in the muscle memory in our minds for what it is that we're looking for. And perhaps also see that, oh, well, you know what, this one is close, but it's not quite close enough to what I'm looking for. Anyhow, I think that is about it for today. So thank you all so much for being here. This was fun. Let me know what topics you're interested in for the next show, and we'll see you here next week. Take care, much love, and as always, God bless. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button down below and become a part of the Marrow Wealth community. And make sure that you check out some of the other videos on the channel. They're exactly what you need to see. And leave a comment down below. I read all of them. Leave a comment.